Hello and welcome to StratNews Global. I'm Surya Gangadharan, and with me my colleague Ashwin Ahmad. Today we are looking at the situation in the Gulf following Iran's admission that one of its missiles had downed a Ukrainian jetliner and the resultant loss of lives. I have with me Dr Waiel Awwad. He is from Syria, a well-known journalist based in Delhi. So what do you make of the Iranian admission? Does it in any way lessen Iran's own standing in the region, its credibility with its own people in the fight against the US?
No, absolutely not. I think it did the opposite, because this is they already said that they have the people who have done it, and that's admitting it by itself is something, a credibility with the, because they were taking their own time. They took time till they form a committee, till they find out with the other groups or agency in the country, and then they came up with the conclusion that it was a rocket launch and accidentally have happened. We need to look at it from the wider perspective. You see, because Iran is at war. When the United States, President of the United States is saying that he's going to target 52 targets inside Iran in case they attack any position of the American installation in the region. And therefore, they were all in high alert. And they attacked already few hours before they attacked the 2 military bases in Iraq. So they knew that it could be anything happen. And that's why this accident have happened, and we know that it was a high potential danger that they can happen to them. Then they thought that these are going to the Revolutionary Guard and attacking their position. So it is an accidental, and heartfelt condolences for the people who died. It's a victims, all students, all doctors, engineer, coming for a holiday, getting married, some people visiting the family, and the Ukraine airlines, the pilots. So it's a very tragic incident, and God help the family in this suffering. It's a mourning times, actually.
Dr. Ahmad, Iran has been very bold, and it's a good move to say that they deeply regret this mistake. But the fact of the matter is, how do you see the Canada and other nations affected? Do you feel that they might join this U.S. policy of maximum pressure on Iran?
See, we have a saying in Arabic. We say, رُبَّ ضَارَةٍ نَافِعَةٍ. Sometime a mistake or something bad can turn into a good omen. So if the American and the international community and the countries concerned sit down across the table and make sure that this area of the Middle East and West Asia, we call it, should be free of wars, then I think that we should not have a problem. This is an accidental happen. Everybody knows, everybody is accepting it. It is how to go about it, but you cannot do much about it, because it's already, Iran is under sanctions. The American already at war with Iran. They have one gun for the direct confrontation. So unless and until you also see the other side of the story, you may be using tactic to put more pressure on the Iranian, because Pompeo was saying in the press conference. Then you had the president also speaking to the Fox News. Then you had also the Canadians saying. So everybody trying to take advantage of this. I don't think they should take much of political mileage out of it. At this stage, we need to calm down. There should be no war. And the de-escalation have taken place. The American president himself was saying, we don't want war.
Right.
So that's the point what it should be across. And I think that's the message, because I know from the war on Iraq, when we were embedded with the American, it took them more than 2 months to prepare, to bring the arms, and then they decided that they were going to invade. There is no invasion here. So low intensity war is continue between the American and the Iranian. And you know that it was not only Soleimani and the Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis to kill. In fact, the American targeted an Iranian officer inside Yemen. The same people they targeted also inside Syria. So American were not only 3-4 targets they have already choose to do. So why they have done it? And then suddenly the international community and NATO themselves told the American president that you cannot go for a war. So they stopped it. So they will be in the future. If not, they are building case against Iran. And the American president wanted to rally his allies next to him. And they will take full advantage of this.
So you do expect at some point that Iran has any number of proxies in the region. And one would expect that after the killing of General Soleimani and now the other commander in Yemen, they will perhaps instruct the proxies to carry out some action against the Americans in due course of time?
See, we must understand the chronology of the problem in the Middle East. Unless and until we see the little background of it. When the Iranian Revolution came to power, Prior to the revolution, Iran was with the United States.
Yeah.
It was the watching dog for the American interest in the region, right?
Right.
So when the revolution have taken over, immediately after 1979, they started the war with Iraq. For 8 years, American support, Gulf money going to them, and total destruction. 1 million died from this side, 1 million died from this. At the end of the day, they agreed for the same treaty that Saddam Hussein signed with the Iranian, with Shah and Algeria. So there was no need for the war.
Stalemate, yeah.
And then he invaded Kuwait. The rule of the game changed. Saddam Hussein invaded, then the American had the pretext to retake Kuwait from him, and they have done it. That was the Gulf too. And then after that, they put Iraq under sanction. And the worst part is started this destabilization factor in the Middle East when the balance of power, regional power, was disturbed by the American by invading Iraq. They have unilaterally, along with the Britain, they have destroyed, they de-Ba'athized the country. They dissolved the security apparatus. They dissolved the army. So you turn the country into a stateless, a raw state. And you give $10 billion in the hand of Bremer, the governor of there. He give half of it to the Shia militants, half of it to the Sunni militant, and they start bombing each other and blowing up each other, so sectarian violence. And then suddenly you have terrorist organization, which is the Al-Qaeda and Daesh, which has been, everybody knows it was the American made them. And in fact, even Hillary Clinton said it, even President Trump himself said it, that they are the one who made it. So what you are watching here is the American plot for the region, and the Iranian taking the full advantage of this, had influence in this region. So there is a resistance arch extended from Iran to Iraq to Syria to Lebanon to Palestine. That arch is facing with the American stiff resistance, which is now starting coalition between Israel and the Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia namely, and some of the Arab countries that should join against Iran. So at the end of the day, they wanted a Sunni-Shia fight. Secondly, the proxies are there, but Iran knows that they are at war. They know that the resistance forces also is at war with America. So if one of the allies, the major allies, happen, then they will take place. I will give you one of the tips why Soleimani was killed. If the American 2014, you remember when Daesh, IS terrorist organization declared a state, they have taken 3 major cities of Iraq, within a very short time. They were 20 kilometers away from Baghdad. The Iraqi went to the American and told them, we have a defense treaty with you and you give us arms. The American tells Iraqi, give us on writing, what do you want? And the American replied to the Iraqi government, you know what? 2020 will deliver the arm to you. They called Soleimani. Qassem Soleimani called by the Iraqi. They said, we need arms. Within 24 hours, the arms start pouring into, and that's how they defeated Daesh. American plan was 30 years of IS in this region. The Iraqi people mobilization force and the Iranian Quds Fauj, they are the one who defeated Daesh on the ground. In Syria, our Syrian army have done, and with the help of Russia, with the help of the Iranian and the Iraqis, we were able to defeat them and finish the plot in that region, which was supposed to be for 30 years. So therefore, unless and until you give the Palestinian the right of existence, the American dominance in this region will remain the same, because America are the lust for the oil and for the protection of Israel and the dominance of Israel in the region at the cost of the Arabs.
Dr. Awwad, the Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif, he may possibly come for the Raisina dialogue in Delhi. What role, if any, do you see India playing with regard to the US-Iran conflict? Do you feel that India can play a kind of mediating role?
I think India is already playing the role. Let's put it directly. India is a soft power. The image of India in the international world have been changed for the last 2 decades. With Mr. Modi in power, the things have totally changed also. We could see he's been received in different capital in the Arab world, the Islamic world, and the rest of the world, the global players. He was able to prove Indian and put Indian image as Modi brand. We agree on that. The point here is that the soft diplomacy, India is already talking to neighbor, but we would like, as an Arab, we would like to see more proactive role for India. You are the main stakeholder in the region. You have more than $40 billion annually coming to India. You have more than 8 million Indian residing in the area. You have more than 14 million Indian are visiting the area. And you have more than $200 billion, for God's sake, trade with the Arab. Then what are you waiting for? Are you waiting for the American call and you are doing a bystander here? You need to take an action. And that kind of action is a political, diplomatical action, not backdoor diplomacy, till you make sure there is no war. Let India and the rest of the stakeholders make peace as a strategic option. If peace is a strategic option, then you can stabilize this region. Before 1947, India was a natural extension with the Iran. You have a two civilizations were together. You cannot just ignore your neighbor because there is a country being created or because of the American pressure. You need to have a sovereign foreign policy, independent foreign policy. It's very delicate. It's nice to talk. I know pragmatically it is difficult. But India has to see where its national interest lying. And I'm sure Indian government have enough think tanks and enough decision makers to decide what is the future plan. And unless and until they start showing to the public what exactly they are planning, the government of India will be always shying away from the reality on the ground. And can you imagine what you want to do with 8 million Indians coming back to India? Or they started this fear among them, right. Especially when there is an economic slowdown, whereas there is no jobs. What will be the burden on the Indian government? I think these issues should be taken aside, plus the energy security. I think these are issues everybody in Indian government is also in Rashtrapati Bhavan are worried. But it needs to be taken in a collective decision with the international community. India has to show its own skin, and spade is a spade. The war should be stopped. No war should be in this region.
But Doc, why should, when you have superpowers like Russia, China, and the US that are already there, and there is a tendency on the part of Arab states to generally look to the US or to Russia or somewhere, why should they listen to us?
They will listen to you because you are not taking proactive steps. Indian army, Indian ships should be guarding the Persian Gulf, should be guarding the Arabian Sea. That is what my take here. The Russians the Chinese are the sole beneficiaries of this war, because if you look at the wider perspective of the crisis, let's say tomorrow Strait of Hormuz close, let's say Bab al-Mandeb of Red Sea close. So we have 40% of the global trade and oil has been cut out. So who's suffering? It's you suffering, Korea suffering, and Japan and China, because you are the main oil supply to. So the United States and the NATO is now where the American thinking now, that the whole crisis now, if you listen to Mr. Trump's speech, he wanted to invite the NATO to play a major role in the Middle East. So why can't India, an Asian country, decide to take their own, counter this productive, or at least work together? So India has to show that it is also my interest lies in this country, and they should be able to penetrate and gain the confidence of the Arab country, gain the confidence in the sense security setup. United States will not allow. United States consider this as its custodian. They even threatened USSR in 1961 that they will use nuclear arm if USSR take any advantage of this. So they are not going to leave the place, but at least you should find US space within the given space they are going to allot you. But do not go into kind of an alliance, kind of a bloc, So India has to trade very carefully. I can understand your question. It's very difficult. Even you to talk to decision maker, they say we are just watching. We are unable to take decision. Watch and see. Watch and see policy doesn't work in international diplomacy anymore. We are facing at the disorder of an international new world order. So unless and until there is reshaping of the international new order, India has to find its space.
Doctor, I just want to ask you now, there is an argument going around because of Chabar, because of India not buying Iranian oil. There is a perception that Tehran is getting a little bit closer to Pakistan and call them to develop in Chabar, etc. Do you think that perhaps Pakistan is gaining with Iran at India's expense?
I don't think so. See, even when you speak of Russia gaining closer to Pakistan, is different story. United States is the hub of terrorism, yet you say them working with Pakistan. The geopolitics location of Pakistan make us talk in a wider perspective. That's why I always look at the strategic way of looking at how the situation is. Iran is having a problem with Pakistan, especially in its border where they have already been used the Pakistani territories, sabotage along with the Saudis groups, where they have attacked the Iranian inside Iran. And Iran have retaliated by attacking their bases in Pakistan. So Pakistan is a very delicate for the relation for Iran.
Right.
But there is also confrontation, conflict of interest between major power in the region. Look at Shah Bahar is something which is, everybody knows the strategic, which will fall also on the line of the Silk Route of Russia. Similar as Gwadar is also in the Russia, Pakistan and China and now and by Afghanistan on that corridor you can see. So all this is a conflict of interest. And you look at the Silk Route countries where it is passing, United States is targeting them one after the other because they are trying to contain China. So unless the neighbors have to understand, the major problem for us is to understand that terrorism is a tool being used by different countries for political mileage. It is a blackmailing. So unless and until every country realize that you cannot be hub of terrorism, you cannot be also keeping the infrastructure of terrorism, and you should fight terrorism together. There is no religion, there is no boundary. Then you will face the music, because Pakistan has been used in the past to trouble the USSR.
Yes.
We know that the culture of jihadists they have started during the making of Al Qaeda and Taliban. Similar thing it can be used in the future. Why can't we understand each other and find a way to address the same issues? Because there are commonality. So Iran is trying to calm the Pakistani side by showing some kind of, giving them, because Pakistan is at dire consequences now. It's the catch-22. They have no good economy. Economy is a bad shape. Politically, not stable. We know that the army is the shadow government. There is the difference between the army and the civilian government. And economy is in a bad shape. They are surviving only on the money of the the World Bank or the Saudis or the Emiratis who are stepping in, now the Chinese. Iranian also have to give some share to keep them calm. And the future plan, in fact, for the United States doesn't feel happy with big countries. And I give you a message, I'm giving you a hint. Pakistan, the American, for them, disintegration of Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Egypt, name it, and it is a part of their strategy. The regime will change the policy. So people may be finding some common ground with the Iranian and the Pakistani, but I don't see in the long run Iran will sell out. Iran even swallowed the bitter tablet when India stopped importing the oil from them, and when the Americans start putting the pressure, but yet they understand there's a pressure on them, and they understand very well that they don't want to annoy India, but they will definitely find a common ground, because don't forget that also Shanghai Group operation all together. It's based on security, and you maybe expand it for different kind of relations. So you have to find out yourself with your neighbor. As been said earlier by others, you can't choose your neighbor, but here you are. You need to find a common policy to survive.
That's true.
The US is surplus in oil. That's what we read.
Yes.
And they're exporting a lot of oil.
Yes.
So what is their interest in continuing to try and keep a hold over some of the oil-rich areas in the Arab world?
You said it. This is the fact. They are not using the oil because they can sell you the oil now directly.
To buy their oil.
And then they close the tab from the Middle East. So China suffer, you suffer. The 40%, 80% of your oil is still dependent on the Arab world, Arab oil. So if you start closing the tab, then I can control your growth rates. So I can always put you in trouble, and you will be blackmailing you. So United States may tell you, I'm not interested Trump, but he's interested in the money. Where the money goes? Petrodollars goes to United States Bank. Yeah. Nobody is able to take his money. You know, the Iraqi government cannot take a single penny from the American. And when the Iraqi government prime minister went to China to sign an agreement that he will give him 250,000 barrels a day in exchange of building roads and building school and infrastructure, the American president called the prime minister of Iraq and tell him, rescind the deal. Hello, where are we living? It's a looting. It's a day looting. Who is the thief of Baghdad? This is a theft. American went to Iraq based on a lie. They told us, even Trump, even Tillerson, the chief of the army staff, he regretted, he repented that he drafted the draft for Colin Powell. And to say in the United Nations that we have gone and for weapon of mass destruction turned out to be weapon of mass deception. And they said we are there for the oil. So there is no question the American will let the Russian, the Chinese or Iranian or Turkey or anybody to take this. United States influence in the region is receding. Yes, we agree on that. American realized this. They wanted to do a bang, make a bang inside these territories to show to the world that we are still who call the shots. So they can cut the oil, they can start a war, they can close Strait of Hormuz, blame it on others, bring the NATO and reoccupy the whole region. It's a conspiracy theory, but prove me wrong.
Doctor, I want to come to the other side. We had the images of Vladimir Putin meeting Bashar al-Assad. Now we know Mr. Assad is a very strong ally of Iran. What I want to know is, what is Putin's interest in the region, and how will he look at these developments? What do you see Russia's role going forward?
See, everybody knows that in 2015, the terrorist organization were already close even to the Syrian army. They have created lots of battle zones that were totally exhausted. So the Russian came to the rescue of Syria, and we acknowledge this.
Yes.
Russia have inherited a permanent defense pact with the Syrian government.
Right.
They had a military base, so they have the only place in the Mediterranean where the warm water leg they can put is a military base inside Syria. So they have renewed the accord. So the United States wanted to make sure the regime is removed. The Syrian government is toppled. They bring in one of the Takfiri fanatics, Saudi's Wahhabist regime, whom they wanted us to go to the medieval age, change the regime, so the Russian will be forced to remove their military bases from Syria. So the Russia is still isolated, China is contained, because Russia and China together is worrying the United States and the Gulf and the West. So therefore, Russian relation with Syria is very strong, very partnership, strategic partnership. It has been there for years. So that is why Putin realized, and even Putin warned different capital. They know that if today Damascus, tomorrow Tehran, then could be Moscow, could be Delhi, could be Beijing, because they are using terrorists. They have more than 12,000 Chechens and different Islamic State, 9 provinces of Russia are fighting inside Syria. So they are not in support only for the government of Syria. They are also defending their own national interest by defeating the terrorist organization. This is a tool, has been used in Afghanistan, used in Syria and Iraq, used in Yemen, used in Libya, and they are going to take it tomorrow to Boko Haram, to Nigeria, and to Djibouti, to Somalia, to close the ties on the trade. It is a war of conflict. The whole history of fighting is based on interest. It's not based on ideology. It's not based on anything. They create for you an enemy. So Russia recognize and understand the American plan. And I think Americans refuse to accept that it is the Chinese and the Russian century. They are the two powers. America will not be able to face alone these two major powers. Secondly, Europeans also recognize this, but they are not willing to accept. So unless and until you believe that this world is a multipolar world and Russia is here to play its major role and influence in the Arab world. In fact, they have a major influence within the Arab territories now, within the Arab capitals, even in the Gulf. So even in Asia. So why are you denying it? We are part of the socialist governments used to be, and the Russian and USSR time, we were close to them. That is how our relation goes with the Russian. And I think this relation, he has reassured the Syrian government that there will be, even if United States go for a full-fledged war against Iran, God forbidden, Syria will be saved by the Russian themselves. And the American knows this, that they will not be able to attack Syria or even to go for a war, I tell you, against Iran, because Russia and China is watching. It was only difficult for the American to recognize one thing, and they felt that they hit the red line the Iranian crossed when the Iranian took the Russian and the Chinese together to form a military exercise. And the American felt that they are losing their assets. Their fat cow is coming out of their hand.
So I think the region remains on a knife edge, at least for the rest of this year. And possibly, hopefully there won't be war. And we'll probably just muddle through. Dr. Awwad, thank you very much. Ashwin, thank you.
Thank you for having me with you, and congratulations for the new channel.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.